6th Ecumenical Social Week. For the 6th year in a row, Lviv has shown itself to be an effective platform for the development of civil society in Ukraine. As here, every year since 2008, Ecumenical Social Week has taken place. The event consolidates the efforts of churches, civil society organizations, educators, and government officials in order to create a socially responsible society and to work for the common good. The 6th Ecumenical Social Week was held in Lviv from October 1st through October 8th under the slogan, Diversity and Respect. The topic was not chosen accidentally, as even during the previous Ecumenical Social Week, it was recommended to continue the dialogue in order to overcome stereotypes and build a strong civil society, where every citizen would feel secure and confident that their rights and freedoms were respected at all levels. The same position was declared by the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, which called on representatives of religions to promote discussions about shared values, common heritage, and protection of religious freedom, respect for human rights, the fight against terrorism, xenophobia, and intolerance. And the question here is not about superficial tolerance, but a deep, conscious respect for every person, their culture, religion, and nationality. According to custom, the forum began with ecumenical prayer at St. Michael the Archangel Church. This was led by Bishop Benedict, Auxiliary Bishop of the Lviv Archieparchy of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church. Archbishop Thomas Edward Gullickson, Apostolic Nuncio in Ukraine, stressed that it is good to start the forum standing before the altar of God. After prayer, the 6th Ecumenical Social Week opened with an academic conference at the Lviv Regional Council. During the conference, with participation of authoritative experts from Ukraine, Austria, Greece, the Netherlands, and France, the main vectors of the forum were jointly identified. A common position on the issue of diversity and respect was formulated, and the character of the discussion was set for all the following days.
First of all, it's encouraging the dialogue. It's showing the responsibility on all the sides of all the churches and so on and so on. And I'm quite happy that it is an ecumenical social week, because the responsibility by our development in Europe concerning social affairs, social responsibility is a very big one. And if the churches are not speaking about this, who else shall speak about it?
Це, очевидно, поглиблює так і поширює горизонти думання, коли ми
Obviously, this enhances and expands the horizons of thinking. When we are not very homogeneous, when we are diverse, but in diversity we are beautiful, we are rich, and we can share the wealth with others.
що, власне, донесемо.
I hope we will bring to society the principle that our beauty is in differences and in diversity.
Наша краса є у багато і різноманітні. Наша краса є, власне, у відмінності.
The participants agreed that society should eradicate the idea of difference as a barrier to understanding and love, and instead see otherness as an advantage, a gift, and a source of human enrichment. For example, Konstantin Sihov noticed an interesting particularity of the Ukrainian language, in which the word excellent, in Ukrainian, vidimini, combines the two meanings, other and perfect wonderful. He suggested that this reflects a high level of tolerance in Ukraine, which the foreign participants repeatedly emphasized.
В багатьох інших мовах нема такого єднання в одному слові.
In many other languages, there is no such combination in one word, neither in English, French, nor in other languages, so that you can say excellent as other and excellent as full, perfect, consummate. We wish such a combination for the social week, to be not only original and unique, but that difference, perfection, would have results and become implemented.
Давали знаки, набували втілення.
I think I would like to see more courage on the part of people and more, let's say, more principle in terms of reaching out and caring for people, because the Ukrainians I know, especially in Kiev, but also here and elsewhere where I met them, are very great-hearted people. They're very generous and and welcoming people. And many times it just means getting outside of your comfort zone and risking something for someone who is worse off than you are.
In previous years, forum participants repeatedly stressed the idea that culture is the best tool in building a tolerant society. In this way, it is much easier to overcome human barriers and blur formal distinctions, for this is the art of diversity. It is primarily beauty that is eye-catching and broadens one's worldview.
Through culture, you much more easily understand who you are and you understand the others. If you understand the others, you also see that the difference is not as big as you thought when you didn't understand, when you didn't know. So culture is actually the beginning of a dialogue. That was also the quote of Roland Barthes, which I use. If you begin to this dialogue, if you begin to go deeper into what is different,
The second day of the forum began with the opening of the photo exhibit, The People of the Book, which was dedicated to major events in the life of the Jewish people. The photo exhibit consists of 60 photos and depicts 2 cycles in the life of the Jewish community, cycle of human life and the liturgical calendar cycle. Both of them focus around the most precious treasure that has been preserved by the Jewish people for millennia, the Torah. The opening was attended by representatives of the Jewish community of Lviv. The official speech on the occasion of the opening was given by the leader of the charitable foundation Caritas Odessa, Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, Reverend Vasil Kolodichin. The second day of the forum was full of events. In particular, on October 2nd, the roundtable, Interfaith Dialogue, between searching for unity and the protection of values, was held. The event was attended by both clergy and scholars of various Christian denominations. Roundtable participants pondered how to protect the values of each denomination in the process of uniting the churches. Our unity in our diversity is the foundation of any ecumenical dialogue, stressed Bishop Benedict in his speech. The experts agreed on the need for further cooperation among different denominations regarding interchurch dialogue, finding ways for reconciliation, and the relevancy of the ecumenical movement both in Ukraine and abroad.
When we speak of communion, we speak of confidence, of love shared, of ability to speak together and to share. But we do not speak of communion on a theological level. So the communion on the theological level may be seen at the scope of ecumenism. And what I want to stress is the fact that the way to reach agreement and ideas and principle, which may be seen as the first step to communion, is to reverse the prospects.
Continuing the theme of interfaith dialogue, the first book by Professor Anton Arjakovsky, Waiting for a Pan-Orthodox Council, was presented. Co-reporters were the author's colleagues, Konstantin Sihov and Reverend Mikhailo Dimed. Describing to the reader the ecumenical path of the churches, the author describes attempts at unity made by Christian denominations for centuries, and shows from his own example the ways of peaceful coexistence of different faiths on a personal level, for example, in one family.
Вера – это то, что позволяет видеть, что церковь единая.
Faith is what allows one to see that the church is united, but then faith must also be united. And this whole book is to show that everyone, Orthodox, Catholic, Protestant, is able to find this faith that allows us to see.
Та вера, которая позволяет видеть.
In parallel with events at the Ukrainian Catholic University, a number of interesting events took place at Ivan Franko National University in Lviv, where a roundtable brought together political scientists, diplomats, historians, teachers, and simply interested people from various countries to share experiences and discuss key issues to overcome internal conflicts in the country. Dignitaries of the 6th Ecumenical Social Week, Erhard Busek, Vice Chancellor of Austria, 1991 to 1995, and Wolf Dietrich Heim, Austrian Ambassador to Ukraine, shared the experience of European countries in establishing mutual understanding between different ethnic, cultural, or religious groups within a country. The participants expressed their visions of solving problems. Some insisted on the rise of the role of religion and culture in society. Historians stressed the importance of conscious reconciliation of painful history, and European colleagues raised to the highest level of the issue of mutual respect and the need for open dialogue in society. We must understand that Ukraine will never be an economically developed country with high standards of living if we do not reconcile. One is not possible without the other.
There is no fight, there is no physical fight. We speak a lot, but we can find solutions with institutional solutions and not with fight. That's important to have the respect of the others, to have a lot of identities in the same country, but with respect. And law, institutional solution can help a lot.
That in most conflicts only a few people are direct involved. They are quarreling with each other, shooting at each other or so. But the important role of the indirect involved people, the people that are the bystanders, is not to neglect. Most people don't see it. But these are the mothers that say, my son has not died for nothing.
The prospects of Ukrainian-Austrian dialogue were discussed during a presentation of the book Ukrainian-Austrian Meetings, conducted with the Office of the Austrian Service for Academic Exchange in Lviv and the Department of Education and Science of the Austrian Embassy in Ukraine. A collection of essays by prominent Ukrainian and Austrian scholars, politicians, writers, and intellectuals, including historian Yaroslav Harisak, writers Yuri Androchovich and Oksana Zabushko, and Professor of History of Eastern Europe, Andreas Kapler, is an attempt to illustrate to the general public examples of successful cooperation between the two countries and the existing mutual respect.
It comprises contributions of 30 authors, mainly Ukrainian and Austrian, but also some other, and it covers the whole range of history, literature, humanitarian projects and cooperation, and also the economy. I think we have some wonderful examples which illustrate how competitive Ukraine can be in certain sectors, how competitive Ukraine it is, and how much more liberal in trade policy.
Another interesting event of the second day was awarding the winners of the third all-national contest, Reporters of Hope in Ukraine. Since journalists are the first to bring up ambiguous and controversial subjects, often the public attitude to issues, including diversity, depends only on their words and their interpretation. This contest stresses the responsibility of each reporter to his or her audience and encourages balanced coverage of problematic issues. Media workers themselves call this competition special, as the unifying feature of all materials is irresistibly positive. It urges hope and encourages action. Raising difficult issues, reporters try to show the people standing behind them, and through their characters bring to society more love, respect, and faith in the future. And most importantly, faith in yourself. Actually, there were many such moments in the various publications, not only about the ill, but also about healthy people and how they inspire others to struggle, to find hope, to find ways out of the difficult situations, to support those who have difficulties, to give hope to those who really need it, exactly at this moment. This competition is different because of its goodness. Each item is rich in goodness. These are good deeds and people who give advice on living. As I said when I received the award, as you read the materials, your problems seem to be so trivial because people manage such difficult situations. These materials inspire you to live, to continue working, to improve your standards, and strive to help your neighbor when you can. The third day of the forum took place in the context of discussions of social issues and social change. In particular, the roundtable, Diversity and Respect, Self-Fulfillment of Vulnerable Groups, was held, during which the speakers shared their experience of work with people with disabilities and children in difficult life situations. Society has finally come to understand that support itself is not enough. Instead, an environment should be created such that people with disabilities can independently provide for their needs and feel needed in society. Experts called the first step in that direction inclusion. The experts unanimously named the access of disabled children to education as the greatest progress in the human attitude towards them. Inclusion cannot solve all the problems of children with special needs, but at the moment it is the best way to integrate these children into society, to increase tolerance, and it is a stimulating factor for the children.
Behavior is changing, and it's like they could be educated, and then through that you see their gift who may come, because before you never speak about the gift of the handicapped people, but just about caring for them. But if you educate them, it's like a child. You see how he grows and who is becoming.
Also ich bin kein Verfechter davon, dass alle Einrichtungen inklusiv ausgerichtet werden müssen. Und ich bin auch der Meinung, dass es als Angebot, nur als Angebot, auch Sondereinrichtungen geben muss, damit Eltern auch auf dem Hintergrund der tatsächlichen, der realen Bedürfnisse ihrer Kinder eine Wahlmöglichkeit haben.
To support vulnerable groups in the country, qualified social workers must work. The roundtable dedicated to this theme united practicing social workers and representatives of institutions involved in preparing such experts. The lack of personnel was named the biggest problem in social assistance. The number of persons for whom an individual social worker is responsible is 3 times higher than the recommended rate. Hence, an overload arises and an inability to work to prevent problems.
Робота на попередження кризи чи складних життєвих обставин.
Work to prevent crisis or difficult circumstances in life. That is, not to allow this to happen, to take steps in advance. This is the main task of the social worker. At this stage, the social worker is the firefighter, who helps the family or person to overcome difficult circumstances in life. For further development, it is essential to coordinate all organizations relevant to social service. That is, social protection, medicine, even culture. This helps to solve social challenges. The mission of social work is to achieve social justice through the empowerment of each individual, by promoting the uncovering of the eternal potential of every human being, which is why social work requires the direct relation of social worker and client. In conclusion, students from different parts of Ukraine shared their views on how to improve the development of civil society. The issue of female migration was also addressed. This phenomenon has become so widespread in Ukrainian society that it has forced sociologists and psychologists to analyze its consequences for society as a whole. The roundtable participants noted that in most cases, the negative attitude towards women migrants is widespread, and it is not that their deeds are condemned, but often equated with moral crime. One of the reasons has been called the one-sided and stereotypical coverage of female migration in the media that describes individual cases of the emotional dissociation and disintegration of the family. They question the maternal care of all other women, which is even more demoralizing for them and their family members. Moreover, according to sociological data, the majority of female migrants go abroad over the age of 40, that is, when their children begin to create their own families. Professor Helma Lutz emphasized that Ukrainian women, and in general, many women from the former Soviet Union, migrate not only due to economic reasons, but also because of social and psychological ones, including, among other things, a large percentage of situations of domestic violence.
This is unacknowledged work, it's not recognized, and I think this is the first thing. My first message is recognize the sacrifice of these women. The second message would be to really ask why are we making such a difference between fathers migrating and mothers migrating?
Якщо таке справді відбувається і дитина мігрантки почуває себе самотньо.
If it really happens that the child of a migrant woman feels lonely, then should our society's reaction to this be a call for the migrant to return, or, on the contrary, creating for the child some social field, psychologists, clubs, that is, for the child to be supported socially and psychologically? I think all this tearful discourse about women and abandoned children does, in the process, a lot more damage to all the participants than good, because it is not constructive.
Тому що він не є конструктивним.
One of the central themes of the forum was charity in Ukraine. Thus, the roundtable, Promotion of Charity Through Public Events, was held on October 3rd. The co-organizer of the event was the Philanthropists Association of Ukraine.
Про благодійність, в принципі, треба говорити і треба популяризувати. Справа в тому, що ми дуже серйозно відстали. Я не кажу, що...
In principle, charity should be discussed. It should be promoted. We have a good tradition of philanthropy, community service days, self-help organizations. We had it all, and it just needs to be revived. How to revive this? We must speak about that. Show good practices, hold contests, ratings, conduct training, seminars, and exchanges. And we have been able for years at the Ecumenical Social Week to talk about charity, organize roundtables. We are grateful to the organizers, and we sincerely support their efforts to unite religious organizations, the public, government agencies, businesses, and all together to do good deeds. How to gain trust? By a policy of openness. If you show what you do, who is receiving the aid, how many people got it, the person will see that money which he or she gave, or assistance that was provided, was not in vain and did not get into someone else's pocket, but actually reached the addressee. It is also very important to have opportunities for contact between those who provide assistance and those who need it, without intermediaries. We also practice these options when we help to contact entrepreneurs with large families. After the meetings, all interested visited social organizations of the city, a workshop of the large community for people with intellectual disabilities, Bjilki, Bees, and the Integrated Care Center for Women in Crisis Situations. Each such visit allows you to look behind the scenes of a once abstract problem. There are no hot debates, statistics, and long speeches, but there are real-life stories of people's lives. If they don't need help, at least they need our attention. For the participants of the forum, this is also a good opportunity to meet new colleagues, share or learn from experience, and through live communication, to change their own understanding of the functioning of such institutions. Residents of these social organizations, despite their differences, difficulties, and hardships in life, showed that they all deserve attention and respect in society. Traditionally, a series of events as part of the Ecumenical Social Week were dedicated to work with youth. This year, the Youth Day was on October 4th. In the morning, the forum participants had the opportunity to participate in a very interesting discussion on the education of the younger generation, outstanding Christian leaders. The issue of education is crucial for the development of a mature civil society. So on the methods of educating young people in a few years will depends the look of the face of our country. In fact, how to introduce Christian values and moral principles in secular education, how to educate the younger generation in the spirit of respect, and how can parents pursue educational process at home, all these questions were discussed by representatives of education and clergy.
Родина є фундаментом суспільства і церкви, і всі наші
The family is the foundation of society and the church, and all our spiritual, pastoral, and educational actions should be directed towards supporting the family. Because everything results from the family. Holiness results if the family fulfills its vocation, but criminals also result.
і навіть і переступники.
Як церква, так школа, і родина, і суспільство мають
The church, school, family, and society must educate those children, young people created in the likeness of God and who were created for greatness. As our patriarch Joseph said, wish for great things, and our strong desire is that our youth, our Ukrainian children, know their traditions, their affiliation, are integrated socially, and know very clearly their identity, belonging, whose children they are. They are the children of Ukraine.
Свою приналежність, ким чи чиїми дітьми вони є. Це діти України.
Очевидно, щоб можна було дитину виховати, так само мусять бути належним чином підготовлені і
Obviously, to raise a child, teachers and educators must be well and properly prepared. They should not only preach values, emphasize them, but live by them themselves every day. So example may be the most educational moment in the whole process of teaching.
найбільшим виховним моментом у цілому процесі едукації.
Another interesting event of October 4th was the training session, International Youth Cooperation in the field of non-formal education. Trainers and foreign volunteers working in Ukraine shared skills and experience in the field of voluntary cooperation and non-formal education. The workshop took place in an atmosphere of active interaction thanks to the work of the trainer and moderator and the openness of the volunteers and students to discussion.
Вся неформальна освіта побудована на тому, що
Center for Educational Initiatives. Actually, all non-formal education is built on the fact that study is directed at the participants' needs. The second very important thing in non-formal education is that the person who is teaching is on the same level as the participants themselves. That means that we do not have an expert who knows everything. We are just facilitators creating a space where one can learn easily.
можна було легше навчитися.
A continuation of the discussion of philanthropy was the meeting of the largest charitable organizations of the Lviv region. Organized by the NGO SEMI and the Wings of Hope Charitable Foundation, despite reassuring trends, charities more often encounter abuses. In particular, there is the problem of the emergence of foundations and organizations that abuse charity and use the trust of the community for their own enrichment. The current situation negatively affects the activity of every charitable organizations and the development of charity in general. This meeting was intended to formulate a common position with the government and law enforcement agencies in the fight against such abuse. There is a tendency in the development of artistic, social sphere of charity to create organizations, foundations, but at the same time, the bad side is developing too. In fact, abuse occurs in that. Abuses involving parliamentary candidates before elections, fraudulent funds. This is because of the goodness of our population, collections for charity that do not have any proof.
Ідея благодійності знов повертається в суспільство.
The idea of charity is returning to the community. However, we see that a lot of people are trying to abuse this topic and speculate in various ways. Someone abuses through ignorance, someone because of precautions. When people do not believe in changes inside the country, they prefer to do it outside, and in addition, unfortunately, there is a situation with criminal abuse.
Що є зловживання, злочинні зловживання.
October 5th at Market Square, a fair and exhibition of social organizations of the city is held as part of the project Observatory of Successful Initiatives. 15 social organizations participated, including the L'Arche Community, the Gerolo Education and Rehabilitation Center, and the NGO Osela Refuge. The purpose of this exhibition is primarily to introduce the citizens and guests of Lviv the activities of the organizations, to present implemented projects, to find like-minded people, and to show the public handmade goods created.
кожна річ інша, тому що навіть одні ті самі, наприклад, вазочки, кожна дитина
Every item is different, so even in the vases, each child puts his mood, his emotion. Today he will make one, but tomorrow it will be something completely different. This is why it is such a unique thing in author's work. The main goal of every Ecumenical Social Week is lively discussion around topical issues and challenges. The topics selected for the forum enable one to look from a new angle at the problems of society and therefore to find new solutions. The forum organizers emphasize that the main objectives of the activities within or under the auspices of the project are the development of civil society, improvement of social policy, intersector partnership, and representing the social doctrine of the Church and Christian youth involvement in social work. The organizers of the 6th Ecumenical Social Week sincerely thank all the co-organizers, partners, media, Ukrainian and foreign experts, speakers, moderators, participants, volunteers, and all who are not indifferent, who once again supported the Ecumenical Social Week and contributed to the development of a civil society in Ukraine.